Oh, Foxy, it's your birthday. Not for real, just for play. This is Cree Summer, and Moana Nui will be right back.
Good evening and welcome to our monthly edition of Moana Nui After Dark presents Whatcha Watchin. This is our recap, X-Men 97 Part 2. We will be discussing the entire first season of the show. And with that, I'm going to give this warning right now. So if you haven't finished season 1, leave, because we're going to talk about any and everything. Leave the camera up, keep watching us because we like the views, but walk away from your computer. This is it. Spoilers. All of them. Maybe even some stuff in the season 2 teased. Teresa, Furious, how y'all doing this evening?
Great.
Humanity has got to go.
I knew you was going to start there. Let's start with our overall thoughts of just season 1 as a whole before we break down particular things. Teresa, your thoughts on the entire season?
I enjoyed it very much. I remember watching. I didn't watch it originally, so I did the rewatch of the X-Men cartoon, and I remember my attention waning sometimes. So I was wondering how this one was going to catch me, but I'm invested. I enjoyed it immensely. Can't wait till it comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. Furious, your thoughts?
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. This is everything I needed in a let me say it this way. This is a great way to revisit the X-Men cartoon from when we were kids, as well as see where they're going next. And again,
Yeah, absolutely.
10 out of 10. I can't find anything wrong with it. Nothing.
Yeah. I'd like to say it met my expectations, but I'd be lying. It pretty much blew them out of the water from the first episode.
It did the same thing to my expectations as the Sentinels did to Krakoa. I'm sorry, Genosha.
We'll get to that shortly. But yeah, whatever expectations I had going in were just crushed within the first 2 episodes, because good Lord. And I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I felt like after like half these episodes, I needed therapy for the mental breakdown and reminders that were just thrown very much so in your face. Like, this is what we're dealing with. Yes, this was a continuation of the previous series from the 90s, but it grew up a little bit. It was definitely way more in your face with themes and tones. Definitely a lot more hard hitting with relevant current storylines from the comic books. Especially within like the last 20 years or so. I can see a lot of things being set up in this season to be kicked off that probably some folks haven't even thought about or touched on yet. So let's start with like some of the highlights of this thing. And for me, some of the highlights start with, if you've never played video games, I'm gonna need you to like find some footage of Marvel versus Capcom 2. And just watch the gameplay footage of Storm, Rogue, Cyclops, a Sentinel, Juggernaut, Psylocke, like literally all the X-Men on that game. Just watch some of the gameplay, because we got all of that in this season. It looked like somebody had played that game before a lot as far as the animation and story department, because they threw everything in the kitchen sink from their movesets, from Rogue destroying the military base to Cyclops in the first episode literally moonwalking with his optic blast.
Yeah.
Teresa?
Yeah, I will not be doing that. Looking for game footage to watch. I will take your word for it. Oh, Jubilee. Um, what we're talking highlights. Highlights. I enjoyed how they team up when they're fighting. Even though they have personal things going on with each other, when it's time to fight, kick somebody else's ass, they get it together and they work together. And I like that. I like from the first episode when Gambit charged up Wolverine's adamantium. Um,
Yeah.
I did my rewatch and there was another team up, Bishop and Cyclops.
Oh, yes. With the
Yeah,
Goblin Queen. Yeah.
yeah. So I like that. They get it together and they work together when they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Furious?
One of my favorite things, as far as highlights goes, would have to be all the unexpected story beats that we hit, because I don't think anybody was expecting grown up Jubilee.
Right.
I don't think anybody was expecting, and I know this is jumping ahead, but still, this is a highlight. I don't think anybody was expecting Wolverine to get his adamantium ripped out of his body.
Nope.
I don't think many people were expecting Madeline Pryor as well as Jean Grey. The one thing that I think the hardcore fans were probably, you made me actually like Cyclops Storm's 28-inch bust down. Remember? Yeah, absolutely, Latoya. Absolutely. And the one more highlight that I'll mention is all of the references to Krakoa and some of the things going on in the modern X-Men comics being retrofitted for X-Men 97.
Yeah,
Beautiful
the Genosha.
work.
Yeah, the Genosha mess, if you will. I can't call anything else but a mess. That wow.
Yeah.
I think that was my first what the fuck am I watching moment of the entire series. It wasn't so much, all right, Xavier left Magneto everything, or Scott and who we initially presumed to be Jean Grey having a kid. It was Genosha.
Yeah.
That whole, and then I'm doing my rewatch earlier today, and Bastion made a point to mention the 4,621 seconds he gave Genosha, which was an accurate count of the beatdown that he put on that island nation to the second.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, they really went there.
They did.
Like even my second watch with them, I'm like, yeah. They finally got the island nation. They did what they were supposed to do. Xavier's dreaming. What's happening?
See, this is
there are lots of times where I needed a safe word with this show, and it didn't give me one.
This is one of the things that I love about being a comic book nerd, because as soon as I saw what Genosha was doing, when I saw them sitting in that council meeting, I'm like, oh, this is straight from crap. Oh, they're gonna, this is gonna be good. No, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I knew how it was going to go down, but I had a very strong suspicion that once I started seeing that council meeting, that was going to be the end of Genosha. I just didn't know how it was going to go down. But again, because that's something that's happening in the comics as well. And like I said, there are subtle references between the modern comic line and what they did in X-Men 97.
Yeah. And now I was going to say, like, I've heard from you and other friends of ours about the whole Krakoa storyline. So immediately when I saw Genosha and everything playing, I was like, okay, this is what they're talking about in the comic books.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
Again, they could have gave me a safe word.
Nope. No safe word.
I needed it.
Nope. No safe word. Just toss you in at the deep end.
Like, so let's jump ahead because we're going to do a lot of jumping around the show because there's really like any point that we can start with. The final 3 episodes was a 3-part finale called Tolerance is what was it? Tolerance is
Extinction.
Extinction. Thank you. Tolerance is extinction. And the first part is Bastion activating dormant Sentinel program in about half the population of the world, basically.
Yeah.
And just attacking every mutant on sight.
Yeah.
Like what?
and no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Teresa.
Oh no, I wasn't saying anything. I already told James I don't have to remember those episodes. So go ahead.
One of the things though that I loved was even with it being Bastion, the fact that Bastion isn't the big bad. He's just, well,
for this season he was.
He's not pulling the strings.
Fair.
The fact that they went with Nimrod as the person who's pulling the strings and dealing with Bastion in the past as a sleeper sentinel, oh, that was just beautiful. And one thing that I saw online afterwards, and I don't know if anybody really caught this, but in the opening episode, some of the Sentinel sleepers that we see during the final are there.
Yeah.
But, you know, at that point in time, they're just normal humans. They haven't awoken. They haven't been awoken yet. So they just look like normal humans. And the picture that I saw, somebody took. Absolutely. Yeah. The picture that I saw was somebody took that original opening intro, and then they took each human that was there and put their Sentinel version right in front of them. And to me, that was just beautiful because I'm sorry, I tend to skip the intro because I want to get right to the action. So I didn't even notice that.
So let me take that a step further with the intro for every single episode. So everyone talks about how the intro was different as far as the lineup of the characters, right? Let's go one step beyond that and what people also missed in the intro. Not just the lineups were different, but if you truly pay attention to...
I know.
If you truly pay attention to every scene going on in the intro, you will see foreshadowing for the episode and flashbacks to the original series. There are scenes from the original series in several openings throughout the entire season because, again, no 2 openings are the same. And I'm not talking about the character rollout. I'm talking about the actual scenes they put in there. Well, there are different scenes in each one.
I figured that would be their replacement for previously on X-Men.
Even though they still did previously on X-Men in every episode. Because we saw a scene of, in one episode, after Charles comes back, he's doing a little mind thing, and behind him is embossed Emma Frost and Sebastian Shaw, and she slams the door shut. Right? Like, that's a scene. We see a scene of Xavier and Magneto from I can't remember what the original episode was when they initially first met in whatever war they were around because they were both doctors using their powers for the first time. That's from the original series. So the fact that they went ahead and did that by pulling those scenes was genius. Nothing short of brilliance.
That's how you know this show was written by real fans. And not that every single person working on it was a fan, but they definitely had fans working on the show to get certain pieces like that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Teresa, your thoughts on that?
On the openings,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with what everything you said. Now, of course, I didn't. I watched the intros every time because
Mhm.
what I was watching for was the lineups. And I'm watching just for myself to be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, of course, I didn't pick up any original series clips, but
Mm.
I'm kind of prone to skipping intros too. But I learned early on that I couldn't do that. So
Nah, not with this show. Now it's pretty much going to give you a little bit of what's about to happen, and you know probably the previous episodes that relate to it. I know one of the other things that was in the latter episodes was the beginning of the one of the season finales for the original series was what was it something beyond space and time or whatever, where Apocalypse steals Cable's little time traveling computer to go back and through time to try to rewrite it, only to get bumped out of time by Bishop and kidnap a whole bunch of psychics. Like that instance in which Cable's fighting Apocalypse in the future is in the intro of one of the episodes. So
Yeah, okay. See, now when I go back and do my rewatch this time, I'm not going to skip the intros.
yeah, don't skip the intro on your rewatch. Definitely pay attention to the intros because yeah, there are some scenes that are the same, and then there's like, all right, we're going to stray away from what you think you know about the intro and throw some scenes in here to mess with you a little bit. You're looking like, okay, maybe the first episode is probably a 1-to-1 reshot of the original series. Everything after that, here's some clips you wasn't expecting.
now I did like the fact, and I didn't notice if they changed any of the other ones, but this one was just so noticeable. And the end credit music, of course,
Yeah,
is the X-Men theme, but in is it episode 5 when they decimated Genosha?
yeah,
And we're doing spoilers here, so when Gambit was whatever, they played the same music. I mean, it's the same song,
mhm,
but it's a much more like minor key, slow, different instruments, very mournful. I
right.
liked that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like Furious said, the people running this show are definitely fans of the original series. To say they did their homework, like they definitely understood the assignment, like
Yeah, yeah.
because they
They
looked at
did
the original.
their homework, and they also just considered every element.
Absolutely. So we get all those things happening. How do we feel about the ending of this season? Um, we pretty much get everybody save 3 people displaced in 2 different time periods. We got Jean and Cyclops 3,000, 2,000 plus years in the future. We got the rest of the team, Xavier, Morph, Rogue, Beast, and Magneto, 3,000 BC, and Storm, Wolverine, and Morph MIA at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, how do we feel with how the final sequence left us? I mean, are we like fiending for season 2 yesterday, or are we just like
Hell yeah.
Right, right. I'll
I
go
mean,
first because mine will be quick. Um, I'm definitely fiending, because I know those scenes mean something. But with
Mhm.
me not being a comic book reader, the dramatic reveals of the new characters, I don't know who those people are. So I'm anxious to learn who they are and why that was such a dramatic reveal. But I mean, it still works for somebody who's not the comic book reader and doesn't know exactly who those people are. I'm ready for them to keep going.
right.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna spoil one of those. You know who Insabi Nur is, the first mutant,
I
Apocalypse himself.
I do now, but that is because but that's because somebody told me.
So we got that little ringer, and I was expecting a little bit. I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more for like everybody's shocked reaction, especially Xavier and Magneto's blank stoic looks when they, he said his name and they know who he is.
Right.
Beast's reaction of just oh my was just a little subdued for me because he's normally like oh my stars and garters. Right. So when he just went oh my, I was like, okay, is Beast shook or what? Do we get
yeah.
Like
right, he's at a loss.
He ain't got nothing, just oh my.
Well, but I think it goes to, I guess it depends on why Beast is so shocked, because the X-Men are no strangers to time travel.
Mm-hmm.
There's time travel all throughout the comics and all throughout the original original run.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing though about Beast and them in the past is, number one, you got in Sabanur before he becomes Apocalypse.
Right.
And two, if I'm not mistaken, the city that they're looking at under the bubble is Kang the Conqueror's city.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that going around. That is the general belief.
Now, depending on which storyline they go with, because depending on who's writing, Kang the Conqueror is a descendant of Reed Richards.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I think he was also a descendant of Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another prominent story that sticks out in my head. I can't remember the specifics, but so it'll be interesting to see where they go. And is Kang the one who rips them out of time, or is Nimrod doing it? Are they working in conjunction? Because I have a feeling that the team that's in the future is in the future with Nimrod. Because we see that Cable is a little kid, but obviously Jean and Scott know who he is. I don't know if the rest of that group knows who he is, because we haven't seen Bishop yet.
We have.
Well, no. I mean, in the future.
In the future, no.
Yeah,
well, we haven't seen Bishop in the future since he initially left to come back and stop Kelly from being assassinated.
Right.
Every time we see him, he's just coming back to the present day to stop something else from happening.
Right. The real no, Latoya. It is the real Cable, but it's Cable. He looked like what did he look like? He was maybe 12 or 13
years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Cable as a kid growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so who ripped press the button. Who ripped them out of time and displaced them? That's going to be very, very interesting.
That is possible.
I don't remember Apocalypse ever having any time travel technology.
Again, for this show, for the purposes of this show, it is very possible. We don't know who it is. It could literally be anybody.
That is very true.
Apocalypse exists all throughout time. That's something we learned when he was kicked out of time by all the psychics without a chance to return. Yes, Cable does have a clone. So we don't know who's yanked them yet. Yes. You mentioned the city, Ramatut, an alias of Kang.
Thank you, Ramatut. That's what it is.
Could be him. Could be Apocalypse. Could be some. Who knows? But
right.
All I know is season 2 can't get here fast enough.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Strife Cable's clone?
I thought Strife was the Third Summers kid.
Who is Cable's clone? But yes, Latoya, yes, he does have a clone. We're just blanking on which is.
I thought it was Nate Gray.
Hmm?
Is Nate Gray not his clone, or is that just the alternate version of Cable?
You know what? Let's do a quick Google search.
Cool.
Yes,
While you're doing that, let's talk about this for a little bit. Who are some of the cameos that you like seeing in this series? People that you didn't expect to see that popped up.
Cap. This says Strife.
Strife is the clone. Okay.
That's what my quick Google
Yep.
search.
Okay, so yeah, Strife is his clone.
Mhm.
But you know, this is the Summers family. So the lineage in the Summers family is always, as my Doctor Who fans will know, kind of timey-wimey and wibbly wobbly.
Lady Ascani.
Who'd you say, James?
Lady Ascani.
Yeah.
You know, Rachel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For those in the know.
Don't do that.
Lady Ascani at the end, when they were in the future of Clan Ascani, is Rachel Summers, the daughter of Jean and Scott.
Okay.
Yeah. Who at some point travels into the past, which would be the modern day present for us, as one of the most powerful mutants on the planet.
So yeah, season 2, so many
Can't get here fast enough.
Right, can't get here fast enough.
Yeah.
So who popped up that like you weren't expecting to see? As far as like, we saw the Avengers, we saw, well, not all of them, but we did see Cap and Iron Man. We saw Cloak and Dagger,
Spider-Man. I didn't expect to see any of them, honestly.
Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Daredevil. Got a Hulk appearance. I mean, I'm trying to figure out who did Morph not change into this series.
Right.
Like, I need a bingo card for who he missed.
No, he confused me. I'm easily confused though. But you know, I'm watching a fight sequence and I forgot about Morph for a second. And I'm watching it and I'm like, wait, where in the hell did Juggernaut come from?
That was Morph.
I need them at some point to explain, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a detailed explanation. It can just be a quick flashback. I need them to talk about why Morph has the abilities of the mutants that he morphs into. Because in the past, well, we didn't really have Morph long enough to know if he could do that in the past.
Right.
Well, as far as the show, no, but I don't know his comic book deep dive, and I don't want to get into that right now.
Yeah.
But
like I said, it doesn't have to be in depth. It could just be, you know, a quick little flashback to him being pinned down by Sinister and some like images of DNA on a computer screen. Just something to say, because my assumption is that Sinister has been fucking with his DNA.
I mean, yeah, we can pretty much, you know, hypothesize that from the original series when he came back. Yeah.
Does it now? Okay, I definitely have to go. Okay. All right, Latoya, I've got homework.
You got to watch the intros and the outros of all the episodes.
Morph shapeshifting is definitely different than Mystique's, because, and that's what I think you're looking for. Because with Mystique, she just changes into other people. She doesn't have any of their abilities or anything like that. She just changes into them. Whereas Morph is mimicking every aspect of who that person is, so to speak.
Because I skipped it because I wanted to get.
It was his rewatch. Give him a little bit of a break. It was a rewatch. When he watches again, he'll watch everything.
Yeah, when he does the rewatch.
Right.
As far as characters I was not expecting to see, honestly, I wasn't expecting to see Nimrod, because I just didn't think they would go there. I did not think they would go there with Nimrod. I'm honestly kind of shocked that we get Apocalypse so soon.
Really?
I guess, yeah, a little bit. Only because what we're seeing so far. But only because what we're seeing so far, to me, doesn't feel like Apocalypse as far as something he would be trying to do. So it just doesn't feel like Apocalypse.
Fair. I guess outside of the other Marvel characters, as far as the X-Men universe, Silver Samurai was a nice surprise, though he didn't do anything except stand around and watch the lights get turned off and the lights get turned back on. I'm like, bro, do something. You got like half a dozen swords at your disposal. Cut something, anything.
Omega Red.
Omega Red was a nice surprise. Him and that squad.
Yeah.
Alpha Flight
Cool.
showing up was a pleasant. I was not expecting every member of Alpha Flight, even
Teresa, they're kind of like the Canadian government's version of the X-Men, but they're like sanctioned and licensed and all that good stuff.
Gotcha.
And the other team members of X Factor. So Multiple Man, Strong Guy.
Yeah.
We didn't see Wolfsbane though.
Now you're just showing off.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's James. He likes to do that.
I don't really.
Storm, Morph, and Wolverine were part of it. We know the other. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, Toy. So
actually, that could address why we don't see the three of them.
That is fair.
That could address why we don't see them because, and as Latoya just said, we're fairly certain we know who the fourth is going to, or the first, depending on
how you look at it. Right?
Oh yeah. Now so, I know that.
Post-credit scene, Apocalypse is in present-day Genosha, lamenting the tragedy that's befallen the world because it's been 6 months since the X-Men have disappeared, or at least Asteroid M and everybody who was on board. And he's holding a playing card, and it's the Queen of Hearts.
Yeah,
it's the card Gambit was holding when he. So speculation is that he might be the first of Apocalypse's horsemen that we see down the line.
Okay, Latoya.
I kind of hope we see them in the first couple of episodes.
You know what? With the way this storytelling has been, I wouldn't be upset if it was episode 3 or 4.
It could be episode 1. I'm all right with that.
But yeah, the 3 missing: Wolverine, Storm, Morph, and Gambit. Possible 4 horsemen.
Mm-hmm.
Possible 4 horsemen. And let's just go ahead and just dive into that right now. Just season 2 wish list. Just a little bit. That would be an interesting group. Yes, all of them have been. Well, I know Wolverine and Gambit has, at least from the limited comic book knowledge I have of X-Men. I know they've been horsemen in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Why would that be terrible, Toya? Why would that be terrible? It makes sense for those 3 who are missing, because we don't know where in time they are right now.
Yep.
And the presumably dead, I mean, technically dead, I won't say presumably, technically dead Gambit to be Apocalypse's horseman. That I wouldn't put that past the showrunners to do that. And actually, we have seen Storm as a member of the 4 Horsemen for anyone who's seen X-Men Evolution. She was one of the 4 Horsemen in that series. So, so here's something that that Rogue kicked off, and 2 knuckleheads made it worse. And this is probably me reaching. What if we got an Avengers versus X-Men storyline somewhere in season 2? Because remember, when Rogue went looking for Gyrick to find Trask, she runs into America's top cop and basically yeets his shield halfway across the country. Mm-hmm. Later on, when the threat of Asteroid M is falling, might be falling down on the planet,
right?
Flanking President Kelly on either side are Iron Man and Captain America. Not out there doing anything. They just in the bunker.
But you also got a brief little glimpse of Spider-Man.
Gambit stole my baby mama. actually, that would make a damn good 4 Horsemen.
It would. You mean evil Wolverine? Wolverine. I mean, we have that. It's called Sabretooth.
So tell me about these horsemen. Should I be worried?
With those four, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, with any, well, yeah, we won't go into others,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
look what he did for Angel.
because that's one thing that Apocalypse is known for, is enhancing the powers of his followers. Like, if you are a devoted follower and you pledge your life and allegiance, whatever your mutant power is, he will amplify it.
And I'm trying to figure out how you
Wait a
amplify
minute.
Omega level mutant.
What if Kang the Conqueror is the alien technology? Because remember, one of the things that makes Ensabanur into Apocalypse is some alien technology that I'm not sure we've ever got a really, really good history on. The fact that Kang the Conqueror is in the past with Ensabanur, what if the alien technology actually comes from Kang the Conqueror?
I mean, would make sense, but is it really alien technology just because he's from thousands of years in the future?
I mean, he doesn't look like a human, so they could assume that it's alien.
He's still human.
I get that. I get that. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
Again, you asked for you put up season 2 wish list. So my season 2 wish list is that Ensabanur gets his alien technology from Kang the Conqueror, and at some point, the mutant team that is in the past teams up with Ensabanur, and they raid Apocalypse's city, and in the process, Apocalypse gets captured. And while he's captured, he fights off his captors and finds his way into some battle armor. While the rest of the team is trying to figure out how to get back to the present.
I got nothing. I'm gonna stick with my Avengers versus X-Men storyline.
It's all right there. Well, especially since there's always this whole mutant registration that they always want to do.
Yeah.
And since you got, like you said, you've got Iron Man and Captain America right there with the president in his ear.
Not doing anything
right there.
I mean, they pretty much are useless. Teresa, what about you? Anything in your season 2 wish list?
No, just keep it as good as it was in season 1. That is my only wish.
Well, I will say, from some of the things that I've seen coming out from, reputable news outlets and even Disney / Marvel themselves, is that season 2 is in production right now. The story's already been written. The vocals, I think most of the vocals have been done as far as the voice work. It's just pretty much animating the storyboards and picking a release date.
Now, I want them to fix Gambit. How about that? That's on my list.
Okay, for everybody who loves Gambit, when he returns, it's not going to be the Gambit you know and love.
I know. That's why I said. That's why I didn't say I want Gambit back. I want them to fix him. I want him to be like he was before.
In the beginning, it's not going to be the Gambit that you know and love. We will get that Gambit back.
Okay. Exactly.
Oh man.
I wholeheartedly believe we will get that Gambit back.
Probably.
We need crop top Gambit back.
Not crop top Gambit. Really? Must we crop top?
I mean, why not? Hey, if people want to see crop top Gambit, let them see crop top Gambit.
I mean, crop top Gambit missed the first fight to cook beignets.
That's my kind of man.
I have ever since Huey's closed in Atlanta, I hadn't been able to find any good beignets, so I'm not mad at him.
I can't with you too. I just can't at all.
Man.
Oh man. So
I wouldn't mind seeing more of Teresa is fam. As far as something else for season 2, I would love to see more of the war that's going on that causes them to send Cable into the past. And I also want more of the technovirus.
But didn't we get that in the first season? With like one of the times he came back, where he was basically trying to stop a virus from spreading that was basically being blamed on mutants, and he basically kidnapped Wolverine to make sure he got infected by it.
You talking about in the original 92 run?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Like, do we have to do that again, though?
I want to see it in the future, though.
I mean, it's only been 30 years.
Right. I mean, technically, the virus that Cable has only affects him.
But again, why does it only affect him?
It was genetically engineered by Sinister to only affect him. Remember, he was trying to make him invincible or invulnerable.
Oh, shit, that's right. Yeah, sorry. You're absolutely right. Okay, so maybe we don't have to have as much in-depth on the technovirus, but again, I want to see the war in the future.
Where Scott and Jean are now?
Yeah. Or no, because it's got to still be, it's where Scott and Jean are now.
I mean, he's 12.
Yeah,
so...
they're there with him.
Yeah, so it's got to be going on. And if it's not going on, it's in the very early stages.
Right.
Yeah. And also, I would like to see what mutants are still around in the future.
Well, Wolverine probably. As Morph joked.
Yeah.
Another dystopian future where Wolverine survives.
Right. Is Wolverine there? Now that they've introduced Avengers, will we see Nate Summers? I mean, not Nate Summers. What's Franklin Richards? Because Franklin Richards, depending on who's writing the story, is either a mutant or just a mutate or whatever. But, there was a run in the comics where Franklin was still alive and in his prime 30,000 years in the future.
Oh, yeah. Groot was just a tree.
Right. Okay. So, do we get to see Franklin Richards? I don't know. But
is he
again,
related to Reed Richards?
I'm sorry. What was that, Teresa?
Is he related to Reed Richards?
He is Reed Richards' son.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically outlives everybody.
Yeah. Because Reed and Sue Storm have two kids. There's Valeria and then there's Franklin. I forget what Valeria's powers are. They're similar to Sue Storm's powers, but I think she also has some telepathic abilities. Exactly. And Franklin Richards,
but still,
Franklin's powers are off the charts because again, he's damn near immortal. He can bend and shape reality at his will.
Scarlet Witch style.
More so.
Yeah.
But so again, just cameos and who we'd like to see. I'd love to see Franklin Richards introduced, and I'd love for them to say that he is a mutant.
Fair.
And I wouldn't mind seeing what gets us to Nimrod.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing about Nimrod, right? The two-parter from the original run, One Man's Worth, right? It's a story in which Bishop and his sister Shar make a pit stop in present day that's been altered because Xavier's dead in the past. Pick up a Wolverine and Storm who are married, and then go back to try to prevent Xavier's murder, while he still has the use of his legs. Yeah. And the Sentinel that goes back in time to kill Xavier is Nimrod. So, and this is where everything dealing with Bastion is done so beautifully that Nimrod's destruction, and I can't remember what they did after they blew him up, I think. But to have like a piece of him still existing in the past that like got away because it couldn't fully they didn't double check to make sure all the pieces were there before they destroyed it, and infecting a person who basically gets married to a woman, and that's Bastion. Like that is brilliant storytelling of just remembering just that two-parter and still tying it into the future that you all are looking forward to is never going to happen because the dystopian future is going to find a way to make sure it comes to exist.
Yeah. And Latoya, I don't think we're done with Nimrod. I think Nimrod for us is going to be Thanos from the Avengers movies. He's behind the scenes, pulling the strings and making shit happen. Yeah. Whether or not we actually see him get his hands dirty, who knows? But I really think he's just behind the scenes pulling the strings.
We're never going to be rid of Nimrod. As long as there's a possible dystopian future in which, humans are dumb enough to believe that they're so different from mutants to create sentinels, a Nimrod will always come to exist. Yeah. And that's the funny part with all of this, like the dialogue from who is it? Val Cooper and President Kelly. Yes, always around. Yeah. The rhetoric of just, normal people are scared of you mutants. Like what it is like Senator Kelly completely forgot being kidnapped at the end of season 1 of the original run, where Massimo was going to replace his brain and other government officials with computer brains.
And who saved them again? And who saved them again?
The X-Men. And Massimo literally told him, mutants are humans. So I'm protecting you from yourself. And yet they still want to push the nonsense of we need to be worried about mutants because they're different than humans.
But do humans ever truly learn our lesson?
No, absolutely not. I mean, look, it's a mirror of what's happening today in several places.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Well, unfortunately, there are people with money who want the nerds to do stuff that they shouldn't do, and the nerds just want to get paid sometimes or just continue their research to its ultimate extreme.
Man, if I had a research budget,
no, because you also want a flame-throwing dog, so no.
If I had a well-funded research budget, man, I'd never go outside. I'd be in the lab 24/7.
And I would need a bunker nearby wherever it is you're experimenting because you would set some ish loose on accident to screw with humanity. And I don't want to be caught in that nonsense.
So wait, I have to ask, why do you think the bunker being near my research would make you safe?
Because it ain't going to turn on you and I need to be close enough to where you is and not get hurt by it. I know you would program a fail safe to make sure it don't come back on you.
But yes, the one of the other thing that has always struck me kind of odd about the X-Men universe is mutants are just the next evolution of humans. Humans were just the next evolution of
Neanderthals.
I mean, they're all Homo erectus.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to stop what we're supposed to evolve into?
Yes.
I would not be a supervillain. I'm more an anti-hero.
Mm-hmm. What Toya said.
Oh, fine.
You don't.
So those are a few of the things that I would like to see come season 2.
Okay. But humanity still ain't going to get it right. One of the things I did catch at the end, and this is hilarious. So when Bishop approaches Forge, because in present day they haven't met yet. Right. He knows Forge several years and 50 plus years into the future. So if you're listening to the background noise before Bishop walks in, you hear that Graydon Creed is closing in on the polls against President Kelly for election of president.
Yeah.
I found that very interesting that Graydon Creed actually bounced back from his parentage being outed in the original series.
Yeah.
Because he was one of the lieutenants in the Friends of Humanity. So they found out who his mama and his daddy were. And for those who don't know, his mother's Mystique, his father is Sabretooth. And he was born a normal human, no powers.
Yeah. Which that's kind of interesting because typically mutants have mutant kids.
Typically, but I mean,
I wonder.
But also,
he's got some latent mutation.
That's what I was thinking.
He looks, because again, when you look, if it weren't for Jean, for example, when you look at Jean or if you look at Storm, they don't look like mutants.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to never use their powers, they'd just be normal humans.
Yep.
Right.
What if Creed does have some mutation that we've never seen?
He might need something to set it off, or
Right. Because typically your mutation happens during puberty because of some trauma.
Right.
What if his happened, but no one was really around to see it?
Then he's doing a good job of hiding it because to have a shape-shifting mother and a father with savage, heightened physical abilities and a mutant healing factor that's not as strong as Wolverine's. I mean, congratulations.
So yeah, that would be that. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if it turns out that he's got some latent ability that we've just never seen.
I wouldn't either, because those are the ones who usually go the hardest.
Yeah.
Who have something to hide.
Yeah.
True. Or maybe he's just butthurt because, you know, I got parents of mutants and I couldn't at least get some powers out of this.
There's that as well.
But I did find that interesting that they threw his name in there as running against President Kelly for the upcoming election. Like, wow, that's where they went with that. Like,
but then again, the question that I would ask is how much time has passed between us learning who his parents are and him running for president?
At least a year and 6 months.
With everything else that's been going on, I could see people not remembering that.
That is fair. That's what I said, because like the series starts, you know, a year after Xavier's assassination,
right? And
all of this takes place over, well, let's call it 3-4 months. All this stuff takes place over, and then the final scene that I talked about between Forge and Bishop is 6 months after the asteroid. So let's just call it 2 years.
Fair.
From the end of the previous end of the original run, and I can't even remember what season that episode was in.
That part.
So at least 2 years.
Yeah, that's long enough for it to be out of the zeitgeist.
Well, the Friends of Humanity still know. So if we go into season 2 and he's running for election, the Friends of Humanity don't out his parentage. I mean,
unless, you know, he's got somebody with some guns pointed at some heads.
Fair. I mean, hey, he got naked photos of somebody somewhere.
Either that, or, you know, he's got him sedated and in remember the blood bank in the Blade movies?
Oh gosh, shut up.
No, I'm saying not that he's using them for blood, but maybe he's just got them, you know, in some facility somewhere sedated.
I said what I said.
Problems.
I said what I said. You and your extreme hypothetical deep dives.
And where's Blade?
Be patient. We got King T'Chaka. We didn't even get T'Challa.
I know. That kind of, again, the timeline, it makes sense that it was T'Chaka and not T'Challa. Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense. But that was nice. I was like, all right, okay, Wakanda.
True.
You know, because maybe we get, I don't know that do we have any mutants that have ever popped up in Wakanda?
You would know better than me off the top of my head. I don't know.
I don't think so. That would be interesting. Wakanda's first mutant introduced in X-Men 97 could be interesting.
Oh, very much so.
Maybe who was Storm's nephew from X-Men Evolution?
Spike.
What if he is her nephew by marriage and he's a Wakandan? I know this is just grasping at straws at this point, but
I mean, he was thrown into the comic books because of that show.
Right.
So, any other things that stand out for the series you want to touch on?
The fact that Magneto was actually trying to do right by Charles.
Oh,
that honestly was a very big surprise for me, because when what's his name shot Storm and she lost her powers,
Executioner,
thank you, and Magneto took them and the council up into space and is like, don't make me let you down, literally and figuratively. Like,
right.
Magneto was actually trying to do right by Charles, and that to me is, granted, in almost every iteration that we've seen of the X-Men, be it the comics, be it the movies, be it the cartoons, there's always a point where Magneto acknowledges the work of Charles Xavier and the good that it can do.
right.
But to see him actually try and perform, that to me is probably the most amazing thing I've seen out of this, is the fact that Magneto was like, all right, fine, I'm gonna let you monkeys live. Because again, as far as he's concerned, he's not a Homo sapien. He is Homo superior.
Oh my gosh.
As far as he is concerned, he and his brotherhood are Homo superior.
Which I am a little surprised, aside from Morph changing into any of them, and then a flashback that involved a human form Mystique and a knocked out Avalanche, we did not see any of the Brotherhood
yet.
So far, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Morph did turn into Juggernaut and the Blob.
Right.
And yeah, those other two was pretty much the only other instances I can think of. Yep. Toya? Who's the supervillain here?
Probably me.
I mean,
So Teresa, let me ask you this: as the person who's not much of a comic book reader, from what we've been seeing, not just of X-Men 97, but of all the Marvel and DC stuff that we've been, talking about over the past few years, has any of it ever made you want to dive in and do any comic book reading?
I have wanted to, but I know that there are so many comics out there already that I would never, because I mean, I've thought about it, I would never be able to start at the beginning. There's probably millions that I've missed, so I don't think I would ever be able to catch up.
So that's one thing that I like about comic books, is you don't necessarily have to, because like right now, I've mentioned Krakoa a few times. Krakoa is a living Krakoa in the comic books is Genosha from X-Men 97. And in the comics, Krakoa, there's the fall of Krakoa, and a lot of people have died. I won't necessarily say how many people have died or who they were, because we're spoiling X-Men 97, not necessarily the comic books. But in the comics, a lot of mutants, X-Men, Hellfire Club, Brotherhood, a lot of mutants have died. And this summer, we're going to get a relaunch of the X-Men comics. So every so often, the X-Men universe in quotes, is destroyed, and then there's an event that happens typically during the summertime. Sometimes it's in the spring, but usually it's in the summer, and then you get everything not necessarily starting over from scratch, but starting over from Xavier has the team of the X-Men, and they've been around and people know who they are. You've got your established characters always come back. Like even though we haven't seen Iceman, for example, we haven't seen Iceman in X-Men 97. Yes, no.
Teresa, I'm gonna give you the short version. If there's a particular story you want to read about that the series has made you interested in, you can always find the trade in which you don't have to worry about how many issues you got to read. The entire story is condensed for however many issues made up that trade. Now, it may be 1 or 2 trades you have to read, but it's an easier way to get a hold of that story, and it'll encompass. And there's nothing that you have to worry about. Well, I missed the beginning of this, and it won't be that deep. You can just read the story straight through as it's compiled in those however many issues they use to tell the story.
And typically what they'll do is if you get to it, and typically in the trades, they will reference, like if something happens and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? They'll reference the other comic that the thing happened in. You don't necessarily have to go look for that issue to read it, but it's just kind of there as a footnote if you want to do a little bit more digging.
Okay.
So yeah, don't be worried about jumping in. Sometimes, look, I have jumped into the middle of plenty of series and was like, this would be interesting to see how it started. And after a while, depending on how many stores I have bookmarked in my browser, I'll go to them and be like, hey, can y'all still get issue 1 of this comic?
Yeah.
But the runs are always restarting every year and a half now. So
yeah, but I have considered that, but it starts to swirl in my mind how many stories there are, and then I get overwhelmed and I shut down.
But I mean, on the plus side, one of the things that I like about X-Men 97 specifically is you don't have to have a
whole
deep
lot.
comic history, because they do a good job of explaining the things that need to be explained, and the things that don't, you might get a little bit, like Asteroid M, for example. They didn't go into any extensive detail about Asteroid M, but you kind of figure out it's Magneto's asteroid and it's where he goes and does some shit. They do a pretty good job of getting you to realize that just from the storytelling.
Yeah, it was real dumb of them to shoot down an asteroid that he's keeping afloat with his powers.
That part.
What did they think was going to happen? Yeah, this thing that's floating above the planet, let's shoot it down. Oh, wait, if it crashes into the planet, it's going to cause a second ice age. But we had to shoot it down because we're scared of mutants.
The hubris of humanity.
Right.
Like the whole rationale of government decisions through this entire run was just dumb on top. Wait a minute, never mind, real life. Shutting up now.
Exactly.
That part.
Yeah. So I do want to ask this question. What did you think? Best
Superman moment. Wow.
So by this, yes. So for those who have seen the Justice League cartoon, at the end when Superman fights Darkseid, for the last time, he says something to the effect of, what we have here is a perfect opportunity for me to cut loose and show how strong I really am. And proceeds to punch Darkseid literally from one end of Metropolis to the other to truly show off his true power. So that's what I mean by Superman moment. Who do you think had the best one as far as truly showing off the extreme range of their powers?
Do I get to go first?
Go ahead.
Magneto.
Of course you would.
He went to the poles and he shut the planet down.
I mean, depolarizing the planet is just Tuesday for him.
I mean, the fact that, well, no, actually, it's one. It's 2, honestly, for me. Mm-hmm. The fact that he triggers an EMP at the North Pole that shuts down everything electronic on the planet, and the fact that he is able to take the adamantium that's on Wolverine's bones, convert it to a liquid, and yank it out of him.
While keeping an asteroid afloat.
Exactly. Because granted, I've always had issue with that because when it happened in the comics, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, and again, the nerd and the comic book nerd and the real nerd in me are always at odds. Because how do we
Well,
know
one of them needs to shut up.
adamantium is magnetic? We don't.
I
Just because
actually
it's
thought of
metal,
that too, but
just because it's
I'm
metal
like,
doesn't mean it's magnetic.
yeah.
Also, if
One of your internal nerds talks too much. They need to
if
shut
he
up.
can destabilize adamantium and convert it into a liquid, what else can this motherfucker do? Because that is destabilization at a molecular level.
Mhm.
And again, he's an omega level mutant, so there should be no surprise that he can do all kinds of shit like that. But it's just the fact that this man destabilized metal at a molecular level and ripped it out of his body. And if it weren't for his healing factor, he'd be dead.
Well, like he told Xavier in his mind when they were reminiscing the time they met in that bar in Germany, metal bends to his will. So why would, and he's an omega level mutant. So why wouldn't he be able to control it on a molecular level?
I hope Peter Parker.
What? I'm not putting that up there.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I gotta go out to see it then.
But yeah, so those would be my two: are Magneto ripping the adamantium out of Wolverine, and his EMP that essentially destabilizes all the electronics on the planet. Because you have to imagine planes crashing, trains crashing. We cut to that scene of Doctor Strange performing surgery
in the dark.
The number of people that he probably killed by doing that. But again, Genosha.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame him.
Again, you see my tagline, Magneto was right.
I mean, look, after the episode aired, everybody posted Magneto was right. I think half my timeline the next day was Magneto was right. Yeah. What about you, Teresa?
Well, the first thing that came to mind, of course, it's not as you know, impressive, if that's the right word, shocking, as Magneto. I mean, Rogue was certainly driven to some, you know, emotionally driven to show what she can do as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, including yeeting Cap's shield off into the side of a mountain.
Well, his hands was tied, so he didn't need a shield.
Right. Like she said. So yeah, that's the first thing I thought of. Don't piss her off.
Oh no, she was good and pissed for
the fact that bunker she broke into, they said the Hulk shouldn't be able to break into it.
Right.
First of all, when has the government built anything that's kept the Hulk at bay in Hulk form? Banner, yes, and heavily sedated. But once he transforms, when is the you think Ross would actually know better?
You would think.
The like you said, what you said, the hubris of humanity.
Yep.
And you know,
specifically the hubris of man.
Right. And he's a big 4 or 5 star general, so of course he knows.
Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. For me, again, as Toya said earlier, y'all made me care about Cyclops, episode 1.
Dude,
just everything he did in episode 1, from saving Roberto, that entire fight sequence against the Brotherhood, and then when the Sentinel pretty much yanked the jet apart and he basically shot off its arm and its head. And of course, he did the little landing thing. I know the physics involved with the landing, it should not be possible. Tell one of your nerds to shut up, Furious. But it was still cool to look at.
I got no problem with him doing that.
Again, your nerds like to argue over stuff.
I got no beef with him doing that. The physics behind that make perfect sense to me. But again, I keep saying Cyclops in the comics is not as pitiful as they made him look in the original X-Men 92.
True.
in the comics, Cyclops, now granted, don't get me wrong, there have definitely been moments where I wanted to grab Cyclops in the comics and shake the shit out of him, but he has always been about that mutant life.
Except for that run where he was part of the Champions.
Okay, I didn't read the Champion, so I can't comment on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone.
You read that, so I'm gonna leave that to you. But yeah, I love how they kind of said, all right, the original cartoon did Cyclops dirty. Let us kind of show y'all that Cyclops is a bit of a badass.
Well, the original series did a lot of people dirty. Let's be real.
Yeah,
a lot of people were done dirty in their original run that this series finally gave them their just due. I mean, Cyclops, of course, but Storm, because anytime, yes, we know Storm is an Omega level mutant, right? Quite possibly of the roster of X-Men in the original show, probably the most powerful one, not named Charles Xavier. I mean, wiping minds is a little bit different than controlling weather on the planet.
I kind of would put Storm above Xavier.
Fair. And that's fair. But I saw that to say is like they neutered her powers in the original run to, like, I guess, create drama. And whenever they needed her out of the way, let's bring up her claustrophobia and put her in a tight space.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad this series pretty much, I won't say it glossed over, but it acknowledged it and allowed her to push through it as to this is no longer going to be a thing with Storm going forward. Because they did run that to the ground at least 3 times a season in the original run.
Yeah, they did.
So I was happy to see her. And like you said earlier, actually letting Jubilee grow up.
Yeah.
Because now, granted, from everyone I've talked to, no one's really a fan of the Motendo episode that was also spliced with the first half of Life, Death Part 1.
I hated it.
And there you go. But to his point, it shows her maturing and growing up and accepting the fact that you can't stay in this same spot forever.
Yeah.
Like you have to move on.
Yeah. It also gives us a glimpse of her
future
figuring
potential,
out what else she can do besides just having, because I mean, let's be honest, Jubilee's powers, there's nothing impressive about her powers.
I mean, yeah, the first run definitely made her powers not impressive, even though they're again taken away from the comic books. If you read her in the comic books, her powers are a little bit better used in comic books than opposed to the series. But again, they wanted a child character, and she was it.
Yeah. So getting again for me, it's kind of like how I always say, I always wondered, how did the Emperor rise to power and become the Emperor and take over and turn the Republic into the Empire? Mm-hmm. We can debate the quality of episodes 1, 2, and 3, but they show you exactly how it happens.
Right.
To me, that same episode, I like that analogy to the Motendo episode for Jubilee.
Okay.
You know, it may not have been the greatest episode, but we kind of get to see some things that she's had to go through to become, you know, that mature version of herself.
Very much so. And look, she saw her future potential in that world. It actually did half that shit when she was fighting Magneto and Bastion in the final episode.
Right.
So
she definitely got an outfit upgrade at the end.
Yeah.
Definitely, because the yellow trench with the pink shirt and the denim shorts.
Yeah.
That wasn't it.
It was, after a while, it's gotta go. It's gotta go after a while. So, oh my gosh. But yeah, any other points or things you want to acknowledge from the show that we haven't touched on this evening, Teresa?
I'll say it, and it's a little thing, and it's probably not a big deal to anybody else, but in my rewatch, the title of the first episode is, to me, My X-Men, which of course is what Charles Xavier says all the time.
Right.
And it kind of makes you think that maybe, you know, they're going to go ahead and start off by saying that Professor Xavier's not dead. You know, he's back, and here he is. He's going to use his catchphrase or whatever. But it wasn't him that said it in the show. Scott said it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure if it was in that episode, but eventually Magneto says it too.
Yep.
So I thought that was a cute little moment to include.
Yeah. And when
Theories?
we finally do hear Xavier say it, you see how crunk everybody gets.
Right.
Yeah, I got a problem when Xavier finally says it because of the So think about this.
Right.
It's tolerance is extinction at
Mhm.
part 1. Wolverine and Nightcrawler are basically the only 2 X-Men still left standing from fighting all the human Sentinels after Magneto's just pulsed the planet back into the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Rogue's in a bed, Morph is unconscious, and Beast got knocked out by some trashy woman he wants. I don't know why he wants this chick. He can do better. But remember that part. Beast is knocked out.
Yeah.
Morph and Wolverine are having a beer, and he's like, "Where's the professor when you need him?" The ship crashes. Xavier takes the helmet off, shows his head, and says, "To me, my X-Men." And you see 4 images pop up around his head. One of them is Beast, who was unconscious in the front lawn 3 seconds ago.
Fair.
That was another episode that I almost couldn't rewatch because when another episode dropped, I would watch the one before first and then watch the new one. The one where he's off wherever he is getting married.
Shi'ar Empire.
Yeah, I almost couldn't rewatch that one because
I'm sorry, that was hilarious.
What,
the fact that you realize, like, I mean, obviously, watching the episode, you realize that Lalandra's sister, Deathbird, basically has a hard-on for the throne, right? And she's trying to do anything she can to undermine Lalandra so she can take over, much like her brother did. And the fact that, I mean, Xavier and Lalandra know this, but they're taking I don't want to say civil, but they're playing politics with her, and she's kicking their ass.
Well, but she made a legal challenge.
Again, she's playing politics with them and kicking their ass at it because she's using all the loopholes for their rule against the leader of the empire. And the High Council's just up there like,
but those are the rules.
Right. She ain't wrong.
Right.
It's like when Killmonger challenged T'Challa in the movie.
Right.
Fair. I
had to let him.
I get all that. But to let her do all this shit publicly instead of privately yanking her up by her ankles.
No, but that's the point, is to undermine her authority.
Very much so. So when Xavier pretty much when everything starts blowing up in real time and Xavier snatches all of them to the astral plane, is like classes in session, is basically like, hey, y'all calling my planet a backwoods world. Meanwhile, y'all would just pretty much incorporate us in after like breaking us down just to rule over us. Like you've done every other society because you feared that they would be a rival to you somewhere down the road. You pretty much wiped them out now.
Yeah.
Like y'all ain't no better.
They're only better because they've got better technology.
I mean, that doesn't make them better.
But yeah, that's something I was kind of happy to see, was them incorporating the rest of the Shi'ar Empire in a couple of episodes.
They could at least let him take the legs back with him. They ain't have to send homie back. They ain't have to send him back with no legs.
We don't know that he does or doesn't.
He was rolling around in a wheelchair.
No. What?
Go ahead.
The suit that he was in.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be willing to bet had he kept the suit, he'd be walking. But when But remember, when he landed, he had the suit.
No. He had on a suit, not that suit.
Are you sure it wasn't the same one?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it looked like the suit Lalandra was wearing when she first crash landed on Earth after running away from her brother during the Phoenix Saga.
Okay.
So basically, their equivalent of
a flight suit
or space suit, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
That's basically what he was wearing when he crash landed. Different from the nice little suit that allowed him to walk. And I'm like, they could at least given him that suit from the waist down.
I mean, you know what? Lilandra was like, hey, if you want to keep walking, you got to stay here with me.
Basically.
If you go back there with them other monkeys, you don't get to take the suit.
Anybody believe he chose wrong by coming back to Earth?
Yep. I should. Yep.
So it's not just me. Good.
I would have.
Now I do got a problem with Deathbird calling Earth ghetto, but I mean,
really,
not really.
Right?
I mean, ghetto.
Right.
The fact that they threw that in there,
right?
It was kind of hard to hear, though. I mean, we know it, but to hear somebody
ghetto,
say it,
damn.
And
like,
that's it. I wonder, are we going to see not necessarily just the Shi'ar Empire, but will we see any more cosmic level beings on the X-Men, or is it just going to remain the Shi'ar Empire?
Well, no, because it's also the who is it? The Brood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Brood is the other alien race they deal with. But it's primarily the Shi'ar and whoever else they're scrapping with at the time. In this case, it happened to be the Kree, which I found hilarious. Like, how many times we want to see Ronan the Accuser get his ass whooped?
And also, maybe we get to see the Starjammers and see Cyclops' dad again.
We did see him twice before.
Mm-hmm. And we don't, because I don't think we know what happened to the Starjammers after 92. Because I think we just saw the couple times we saw the Starjammers, and then that was it. There was never any, at least I don't remember there being any mention of something happening to the Starjammers. Nah,
because the first time, like you said, was the Phoenix Saga.
Yeah.
The second time was when his dad crash landed on Earth because he was protecting a royal witness for some trial or something like that or whatever. Haven't seen him since. And even still, Cyclops doesn't know that Havoc is his brother. Yeah. Remember, they fought the first time they meet Forge is when Bobby's looking for Polaris because they used to date.
Right.
They did that in the flashback. When they go, they find X Factor, basically. Strong guy, multiple man, Forge, Polaris, Havoc, and Wolfsbane. Right? And that's when we learn pretty much. It's probably because I'm trying to remember if that was before or after the Phoenix Saga. Either way, we learned that siblings' powers don't affect each other.
Right.
Because Banshee and Black Tom Cassidy's powers don't affect each other. They're brothers.
I thought they did figure out that they were brothers.
Cyclops and Havoc stare each other down. One of them says to the other, I don't like your attitude. Cyclops hit him with the optic blast in the middle of the chest. Havoc blast him with his hands. It's like, what gives? Why isn't this working? And then they decide to switch partners.
Maybe we get Vulcan as well.
Vulcan is the third Summers brother. That's who it is.
That's the third one, yeah.
So, but yeah, even with Corsair, Christopher Summers, his father, in that second occurrence that he shows up, they pretty much start the conversation with, so you're going to marry the redhead who kicked the kid's butt half across the galaxy. And the final line is, well, she's calmed down a bit since then. So
and the way they're combining storylines, I could see it happening.
Right.
Because they're combined. That's one of the things. That's one of the standout things that they've done is how they've taken multiple storylines and put them together, and it just flows so smoothly.
Yeah. I will say again, just to reiterate where we started, like the fact that you can enjoy this series and not really have to watch all of, if not any of the original run.
Yeah.
It just a testament to great storytelling.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yes, there are alliterations and references to stuff from the original series, but at no point is it absolutely necessary to be like, I have to go back and watch this episode. Like you can,
right. Yeah.
You know, if you want to see what happened, but not.
It's just like the Fallout series. When you've got when you've got one, fans, and two, just people who respect the source material, you will get an excellent product. And that's what they've got, minus the one on the cast and crew of X-Men 97 respect the story, respect the source material.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad he's gone.
So we already knew we were getting a season 2 when the announcement for the show was made. Like 1 and 2 were already greenlit. Do we think it's a matter of if not when Disney and Marvel make the announcement that a season 3 is coming?
I thought
they
3 was
had.
already announced.
Oh, they did?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I thought 3 was.
I've been under a rock for some of the news lately, so I was not aware that announcement had already been made. So looking it up.
Yep.
Okay. But yeah,
Don't ask me any more questions.
No, I'm not. I would say my tagline right now is pretty much the only question I got. Like, how Cap get his shield back? Because again, roll through that joint like the next state over.
Right. I was waiting because the mountains were in the backdrop. I was really waiting to see that tiny little impact because it's
Right.
the dust when it
See
hit the
where
side
it
of the
landed.
mountain.
Yeah.
Right.
Say it just disappeared into the distance. I'm like,
Right.
Cap's motorcycle ain't gonna make it that far.
Season 3 has been greenlit.
Yeah.
It has been confirmed.
Okay. Go ahead and get it cracking.
I hope they just go ahead and do 5 seasons like they did the original.
I would love it, but the way that top brass sometimes becomes fickle and stupid with animation, and I'm gonna be real, when it comes to animation, American animation and streaming, getting more than 2 seasons is a blessing, because you're like, 1 is pretty much all right, here's the feeler, and 2, the populace could love it to death, but some stupid executive somewhere will hate it because reasons.
Yeah.
And the show gets canceled, and then this is a outcry of love and admiration for a series. Like, what the hell? Why did the show get canceled? Why'd you pull the plug on this? It's only been 2 seasons. There was so much story to tell. We never got this closed up.
Right.
If anything, they should look over at how DC did with Young Justice.
No.
Well, in the sense that the fans, I think, were a large part of why it got a few more seasons. The fan outcry.
True, so but unfortunately, it still didn't get its 5th and what I think would have been the final season.
Fair, but I'm just saying, if the fans get behind it and let it be known, possibly we'll get more.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you don't know until you ask.
True.
Or scream and yell and demand.
I mean, we can go down there with pitchforks, but it's Florida, and I don't want to go into that state.
Not us with pitchforks.
No, we'll have to get some other people to do that.
Right.
The 3 of us, no.
No.
Because they'll be standing their ground against us, even though all we got is pitchforks.
They'll see us at the borderline.
Pretty much. You know what? For this instance, you can have a flame-throwing dog and drones. Only for this situation.
That's okay. I'll make the most out of it.
All right. Final thoughts before we get out of here for the night.
Mwah.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
Magnifique.
Agreed.
And I hope they don't make us wait too long for the next season.
Yeah, so we were at MomoCon this weekend. That was one of the questions that came up amongst all the other interviewers that we were, kicking it around with. And honestly, I'd say this time next year for season 2.
I'm okay with that.
And look, I know you're thinking but it was only 10 episodes. Why rush it?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Take your time. Do it right.
So, I mean, we had, like you said, we have this much layered storytelling. I'm willing to wait 12 months or 10 months
10 episodes.
For 10 episodes next year. Yeah, I'm willing to wait.
I mean, I wait more than a year in between seasons of Doctor Who. So 1 year in between, I'm good.
Look, I waited a year and a half between the end of Attack on Titan, which they kept stretching out for no good reason whatsoever, other than to create anticipation.
And sell advertising. On the plus side, at least there are no toys that are a requirement of the marketing push behind this.
True. Because if I hear another thing about a show getting canceled because some stupid executive said some dumbass crap like girls don't buy toys, I'm gonna find out where he lives and punch him in the face on sight.
And then
I'll need violence here.
And then I'll need my robotic dog with the flamethrower to cover your exit.
We do not condone violence on this show. I'm just saying, people are stupid and they make dumb decisions. All right. Mostly executives who run companies.
Right.
Well, that's going to do it for this month's edition of Moana Nui After Dark presents What You Watching. Please join us again next month where our topic will be, who knows?
Right. Whatever we're watching.
Hit us up with all our socials at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. If you have any suggestions that you would like us to discuss, let us know. Say goodnight, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off, called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.